Hello, and welcome to the Kitty Cat Lane. My name is Lane, and today I'm going to be sharing my first real attempt at sculpting and completing a model in Blender. I'll be making my fursona Thulia. And as a disclaimer, I'm still a Blender noob, so I don't know the most efficient way to do everything, so this is less of a tutorial and more of a walkthrough time-lapse of how I got from point A to point B. I decided I wanted to make this video because although I'm still learning how to use Blender, I thought that if I make a video now sharing what I can currently do, and then make another one, I don't know, like a year from now, showing what I can do after more time and practice, I'll be able to see how far I've come and critically critique what I was doing when I was first starting out, so that I can hopefully eventually help other beginner Blender users. So I watched many different tutorials to learn the basics and get advice on how to make good models, and I practiced different ways to try and find what I liked best and what worked best for me. The hardest thing was just learning and remembering the hotkeys. But once I learned the most commonly used ones, I honestly learned a lot just from messing around and trying to make simple things on my own. So here are some of those things that I made just trying to get familiar with Blender and seeing what I can do. Up until this Thulia model, my most complex model that I made completely on my own, aside from looking up how to use shaders, was this low poly version of my cat Zinnia. It's still pretty simple, but I think it's cute and I had fun making it. For this new model, I started by making this cube more rounded and stretching it out to block out my main shapes for the base of the model. I also added a mirror modifier to cut my work in half. I was able to mostly duplicate, rotate, and stretch out the same cube for most of the base, and for now I left out the wings, her hair, and neck and tail fluff. Once I was happy with the base, I joined the shapes into one and remeshed them all together. Somewhere along here, I did something that crashed Blender and my recording, so I'm missing part of the video recording, but it was mostly just me remembering to apply the mirror modifier before remeshing and getting the first bit of the sculpting done. But after I got everything back up and running, I went back into the sculpting mode and started to get some details down. If I could go back and give myself a word of advice, I would tell myself not to overuse the remesh. Because I definitely did. And it really came back to bite me in the butt later when I had 5 million faces on my model. And to be clear, not a face as in like I'm looking at you and we're talking face to face. I'm saying face more like if you're looking at the cube that pops up in Blender, that is 6-sided. So each of the planes of that is a face. So 6 faces. Versus a more detailed model that has 5 million faces. Like, don't get me wrong, I was so pleased with the look of my model, but I wasn't even thinking about how many faces I had and how that was going to affect my work down the road when I wanted to paint and rig it. Something else that I messed up on was the claws on the feet. When I remeshed them, it got kind of messed up, and I just kept trying to fix it, but only ended up stretching the faces out more and making it look more weird. I wanted to erase and remake them, but when I went to do so, I saw how many faces I had, and I was like, oh no, it's too far gone. So I just decided to leave it be for a while. Something that I've been working really hard to do is learning to embrace my mistakes and remember that I don't need to stress over everything being perfect, which is easier said than done, but especially since I'm still learning how to use Blender and I hadn't tried to make a model this detailed before, I told myself that I can always come back to it later and try to fix it if it really bothers me that much. But in the meantime, I needed to get other stuff done. I had a similar issue with the ears where I just kept focusing on them and trying to, make them more detailed and make the ear look better, and I don't know. I just got them to a point where I was satisfied and stepped away finally, thank goodness. But after working on the body of the model for a good while, I decided it was time to add the hair. I just flattened and stretched out another shape for the base and then pulled and sculpted out bits of the hair. I did that for the neck fluff and tail fur and added some fluff bits around the rest of the body as I saw fit. At this point, I was feeling really proud of the look and I was super happy with it. I was so excited to add the armature and paint, but I kept running into issues where it slowed down my computer and I wouldn't be able to apply the paint or move the model with the armature. It was getting late and I had spent the whole evening into the night working on this model, so instead of letting the frustration continue to get to me, I decided to step away for the night and come back to it the next day when I had more time to problem solve. So skip to the next day when I'm doing just that and looking into how to lower the face count without ruining the quality of my model. It's then when I learn how to see exactly how many faces I have in numbers, and when I saw that I had over 5 million when I needed to have it down to, I don't know, like the hundreds or low thousands, I honestly just about lost hope. But my determination to try and get this model usable kept me going. I saved a copy of the file and also made a duplicate of the high quality model in the same file and tried a few things to get the number of faces into a reasonable number. And one of the methods worked out pretty well. It's called demolishing in the modifier section. I just used that to decrease the amount of faces and it still kept it looking pretty alright. But still, to get it to a low enough number that I was actually going to be able to use did get rid of most of the details, and that made me kind of sad. So since I had this low quality model that, you know, still kept most of the shapes and stuff, and it looked alright for a low poly thing, I thought that I could unwrap it and bake the details from my more high quality model onto the more low quality model, and it worked out okay. Like at first I was like, hey, this looks pretty good actually, but then I zoomed in and weird holes and stuff in it and where it just totally messed up, and I turned around to the back and I saw like where the bone part of where her wing would be was like had like an impression on the back of her arm. It was weird. It was just weird, and I not really what I was hoping for. I got a little discouraged again and set it aside for the time being and tried a few other things before just stepping back and adding a toon style shader to try and pep myself back up. You know, end things on a positive note. I think it looks cute, but it still wasn't the detailed paint that I was hoping to do. So, the next night, I tried rigging the low poly model just to see if I could get it to work, and it did! I was like, whoa, oh my gosh, I can actually do this! You know, it was the low poly one, so it wasn't gonna be great, and I was like, it's not, you know, this is like good, but also like, frustrating! But I looked into ways that I could maybe clean up the baked details and tried manually touching them up by saving a copy of the model map and editing the weird bits in Clip Studio Paint, but it still wasn't really working out. It didn't really change much, I guess. I don't know, it was weird. It saved like the map colors as something darker, so when I re-uploaded it, it just was off. It was off. That's all I can say. Well, even though it didn't look how I wanted to, I still really wanted to try posing her around just because I thought it would be fun. So, even though it's a little messed up, I figured I could show you all what it looks like if the armature were to work with it. I had fun messing around with her and making her tail swoosh and turn her ears. I thought it was cute, and I don't know, it kind of cheered me up, and I think I'll still try to fix this up sometime, but for now, I think I've exhausted my current capabilities on this model, and I'm feeling good about future projects. Although I made some mistakes, I now have a better idea of how I want to do whatever I end up doing next. As far as the finished high-quality model looks, I think it exceeded my own expectations for what I could do, so I'm really excited to redeem myself with a more usable and fully colored model next time. I know this was a change of pace from my usual videos, but I hope you all still enjoyed it. Thank you all so very much for taking a walk down the kitty cat lane with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And here's the secret kitty of the day. Bye!